Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 246 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this program is to help improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SAMatters mission is simple. We want to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my hotel room in Fort McMurray, Alberta, where I'm in town for training for oil refinery operators at Syncrude Canada. Once this visit is complete, we will have trained almost 600 oil refinery operators over the last 10 months. And I have some exciting news. Syncrude has agreed to an ongoing relationship with our company that will continue to help improve the safety of their operators. This means our trainers are going to be spending a lot more time in Fort McMurray, and for that I am very, very thankful. If you know of a company that wants to help their employees improve high-risk, high-consequence decision-making, then ask them to give me a call so we can have a conversation. If you missed episode 244, our Christmas Eve episode, you may want to go back and give it a watch. We had a visit from that jolly old elf himself, St. Nick, and he shared 12 ways to improve situational awareness, a takeoff on the theme of the 12 days of Christmas. Hey, if you like our show, please consider subscribing. For the audio version of the show, search for SAMatters Radio on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. If you want to watch the video version, subscribe to SAMatters TV channel on YouTube. And if you find value in the show, I'd really appreciate it if you'd give the show a rating and write a review. Your ratings and reviews help others to find this show. Okay, let's jump into our feature segment, where you get to sit in on a segment of my classroom program for the oil refinery operators, where we're talking about 4 situational awareness barriers: pre-arrival lens, task fixation, mission myopia, and fear. What we're going to do now for the balance of the time that we have remaining this morning is we're going to go through a list of situational awareness roadblocks that I think in a period of high vulnerability you need to be conscientious of, because these things can mush you up pretty quick. So the first one is something called pre-arrival lens. The pre-arrival lens is the picture on your Etch-a-Sketch of the problem that you're going to be dealing with before you ever actually get to where the problem is to deal with it. So maybe you're told by panel, go over to this place and because I got this reading and see what's going on, and you get in your mind, well, when I get there, this is probably what I'm going to be seeing and what I'm going to be dealing with when I get there. So whatever the picture is in your mind before you get there is called the pre-arrival lens. It sets up expectations, and that can be helpful because it can keep you from being surprised or caught off guard. But the expectations can be harmful as well, because here's what can happen. If you come into a situation already having in your mind what you're going to be seeing, you may only see what you expect to see, not what is reality. If you come into a situation and you don't expect that you're going to be seeing something, you may not see it, even though it's happening. If you come to a situation and you expect that you're going to be hearing something, you may hear it even though it isn't happening. And you may not hear it even though it is happening. And it all has to do with that picture that is on our mental sketch pad. You see, we often don't think about this, but we have two sets of eyes. Not one, two. We have these eyes, the biological eyes. And then we have the mind's eye. The mind's eye is what the mind sees as the picture that's on the Etch-a-Sketch. And when you are under stress, if given the choice between believing your biological eyes and believing your mind's eye, your brain is far more likely to believe your mind's eye, even if it isn't the truth. And that can mess us up. Because what the senses are actually gathering, the mind is seeing and hearing something else. The words that are shared with you by others draw pictures. The words that are shared with a field operator by the panel operator draws pictures of understanding. These pictures create shared awareness. What we hope is that everyone would communicate so clearly and so concisely and so efficiently that their words would draw beautiful pictures of understanding in the minds of others. That doesn't always happen, but that could be our wish or our hope. But know that the words that are being shared with you from someone else is drawing a picture in our mind. Some people are so gifted at that, their words are like Picasso. Some people are so poor at that, their words are like abstract art. You literally have no idea what they're saying. And the problem with that is they'll have no idea that you don't understand what they're saying. They'll think that what they're saying makes total sense. So here's one thing I can tell you today. Everything that I'm sharing with you is painting pictures on your mind, or at least trying to. And here's something I know with complete certainty. Everything I say to you today is going to make total sense to me. The challenge is for me to make sense to you. To be able to take that picture in my mind of the message that I'm trying to convey and to convey that using the right words and the right tone and the right measure that it paints pictures on your mind. So along with that, because it is communications based, we have to consider intent, not just message, but intent of the spoken and unspoken word. We have to consider not only what somebody said, but how they said it. Not only what they said and how they said it, but was there stress in their voice when they said it? Sometimes saying nothing at all conveys a message. Silence is a form of communication. If I was at home and I said to my wife, hey, me and the fellows are going to go out tonight and have some beers and watch the hockey game, what do you think about that? Is that all right? Is that all right? Message received. Even silence can send a message. Sometimes people talk so fast, they don't give enough time for our Etch-a-Sketch to draw pictures. They talk so fast. One of the things you might have noticed, or maybe didn't even notice today, is periodically, when I speak, when I say something that I want to make sure you understand, I shut up. And let there be some silent space so you can think and reflect about what that picture means. That's sometimes very hard to do, is to create that awkward silence. People think they need to fill in all the silence with words. That's sometimes why you'll hear some speakers who do a lot of and when they're talking, because the silence gets very awkward for them. And maybe that's how I was when I was a new speaker, but that's not how I am now. I give your brain some space and some time and allow you to digest and think about things. Silence is a powerful way to allow communications to sink in. Another situational awareness roadblock: task fixation. What does that mean, task fixation? It means you're fixating your attention onto one thing, one little space, one thing that you're doing. Task fixation is very common in people whose jobs require hand and eye coordination. You might be thinking, well, Rich, if my hands and eyes are coordinated, I don't call that fixation, I call that focus. I'm focused on what I'm doing. And that's a good thing. It is. Until you focus for extended periods of time, and then focus becomes fixation. The problem with fixation is all of your attention is into one tiny little space. And while you're fixated on that tiny little space, you're completely missing everything that's happening in the world around you. The things in the bigger space you won't see, you won't hear, you won't have any concept of what is happening because all of your attention is in that tiny little space. So, one of the things that I would recommend is if you find yourself fixated on a task, is to practice a situational awareness tip called maintaining the big picture focus, which means periodically stop what you're doing, unlock from the task, take in the big picture. When you unlock from the task and you take in the big picture, I assure you that you will see things and hear things that you were not seeing and not hearing when you were focused on that tiny little space. If you can do it, consider assigning somebody to watch the big picture. That's what you were talking about with that incident commander person, whose job it is to be hands-off, big picture, while other people are focused on the smaller spaces, the more task-oriented stuff. That person whose job it is to take in all of it. Look around, listen around, coordinate, take in the whole aspect of everything that's happening. Another situational awareness barrier is mission myopia. Mission myopia means having a commitment to the mission without considering the risk involved. Being so committed to getting something done that you don't care about your own safety. You don't have any concern about the risk that you're taking. You're on the mission. Travis, this might have been a little bit of what you guys were experiencing when you were on the mission to get that problem solved. So committed to the mission that the concern or the thought for your risk wasn't on the radar. I had somebody yesterday share a POHV example where they had a problem and they shut down an area and said nobody come through this area, and there were contractors that, and I wish I could tell you, exactly where it was because you'd relate better for you. I'd draw a better picture, but I don't remember where they said it was. But wherever it was, the contractors had to get from where they were over to some building over here. And to get from where they were to get to that building over there, they had to go through that pathway that was now shut off. And some of them just kept trying to get through that pathway. So committed to getting to where they needed to get to that the whole concern of risk wasn't even on the radar. I got to get there. I'm late. I got something I got to get done. I got a deadline, whatever. Getting so committed to the mission that you put the accomplishment of the task ahead of personal safety. Another situational awareness barrier. Fear. Fear. Fear of what? What do people fear the most? They actually do surveys. All over the world they do these surveys. They're called the fear survey. They go around, they survey people. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And then they publish the results of the fear survey. So this fear survey, with the highest one being on the top and on down, all the way down to the lowest one, was conducted by the Washington Post in conjunction with Chapman University. And the results of this fear survey revealed that number one is often the number one fear revealed in fear surveys. The most commonly identified number one fear that people have is the fear of public speaking. You will notice that the fear of dying didn't even make the list. Which means that there are people out there in the world who are more afraid of giving a eulogy at a funeral than being the person in the box. That's not rational. That is irrational fear. Goodness gracious, what is it about public speaking that would cause so much fear? Apparently, it is in play in this room because no one's speaking. What is it? The fear of what?
Judgment by your audience.
The fear of judgment. What else? Huh? Embarrassment. A fear that they're going to embarrass themselves. The fear of failing. The fear of ridicule. The fear of consequence. The fear of judgment is enough to cause some people to absolutely, at all costs, avoid public speaking. And every public speaker, myself included, we have this fear. I have this fear with you. What do you think of me? What are you going to say about me on the evaluation? What if I say something that embarrasses myself? What if I look like a fool? What if I don't appear as though I am credible in what I'm sharing? What if I think that you think I'm wasting your time? I don't want that. I don't want any of that. These fears are alive even in public speakers who do it for a living. The only difference between the average person who is gripped by these fears and the professional public speaker who is gripped by these fears is we have to figure out a way to manage through our fears or we don't get a chance to share knowledge. So we have to manage that. But some people aren't that good at managing those fears. In fact, some people will do just about anything to avoid these powerful motivators, including not speaking up when something's going wrong. When something's going wrong and you got to key that radio, that's public speaking. Because I don't think it escapes anybody to realize that if you key that radio and you say something over that radio, you are speaking to the masses, to everyone who is listening to that channel. And maybe that is in part what compels some people to just make a lid call instead of saying what needs to be said on the radio, contributing to the massive volumes of lid calls. That person who I said saw that fluid leaking, and he wasn't sure, he was new, and he wasn't sure whether he should report it or not. He made a lid call. Then when he didn't get the answer that he thought was the right answer, he made another lid call. And I said, well, why didn't you just key the radio? And he says, I didn't want to embarrass myself if this problem was just something minor and I was making something more out of it than it needed to be.
But in all fairness, that's an experience. And you to stand up there, you've had days where you've stood in front of a mirror and practiced your craft. Right? So for someone who has no idea what they're going to say 30 seconds before, then all of a sudden blurt it out, they're not really sure what's going to come out. They haven't practiced it. That's an experience. And same with a new person on the radio.
Right. I wouldn't say everybody. I think the more experience you have in speaking up when you need to speak up, the better you get at it. The more you manage that fear. But there are some people who I've met who've been on the job for 30 years. If I said, come up to the front of the room and tell a story about your PHV event, they wouldn't tell it. There's no way they would come up to the front of the room. There's no way they'd stand before their peers in judgment and share their story. In fact, in some of the sessions, today we had some people speak up. When I said, what is your POHV experience? We've actually had sessions where there were people ranging in experience from 30 years on down. I couldn't pry someone to share their story. I knew they had them. You don't spend 30 years here and not have any POHV events. And they sat there like, no, he must be talking to someone else, not me. Speak up? No, I'm not going to speak up. I might look foolish. I might embarrass myself. I might say something that someone would laugh at me. It's a very powerful motivator, that fear of speaking up. And the reason I put this in here, I told you I cherry-picked the situational awareness roadblocks that I would share. And the reason I cherry-picked this one is because I talked to operators that I asked them, if you felt a unit needed to be shut down, would you order it shut down? And some of them said, no, I would not. I wouldn't do that. I'd call my STL and let them do it, but I wouldn't do it. In fact, I had panel operators that I interviewed said if somebody ordered the shutdown, if it's somebody that I know well and I trust, I shut it down, no questions asked. If I don't know them well and I'm not sure if I can trust them, I ask them a lot of questions. So that's all back to that relationship thing of the shared awareness, of the team awareness, of knowing whether you can trust somebody's call and judgment. I can't speak to cultural things in an organization and those fears that you have for your job, other than I will say that I've been in many organizations where people have fear about things that have never happened. Well, it coulda. I've been to many fire departments. Oh, you can't do that, you'll get fired. Well, who's been fired? Well, nobody, but it could. It could happen. Oh yeah, anything could happen. A plane could land on this building while we're having class today. If you want to live in the fear of that, could happen. Anything could happen. I don't know how it is in Canada, but in Minnesota, we're in employment at will. At any given time, our boss can walk in and say, not real happy about that white shirt, today's your last day. That's the power employers have in the state of Minnesota. Termination without cause. An employment at will state. Could happen, but rare is the occasion that it does.
I've made the call to shut down the unit. No problem. It depends on whatever.
Yeah. Some people will make the call. Some people won't make the call for fear of consequence, ridicule, embarrassment. Since 2007, Situational Awareness Matters instructors have helped more than 1,300 organizations and more than 75,000 individuals improve high-risk decision-making, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, highway workers, transportation operators, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and more. If you work in a high-risk, high-consequence environment, then we're here to help improve your safety and your survival, and to help you accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you.
I think Rich's ability to connect with any crowd, that's a gift that he has, and it's easily transferable.
This is the second or third time that I've heard him speak. There's some teeth to the information that he brings.
It's been really good. Good mixes. He knows when to throw in a joke here and there to get you back involved.
Some tools. I'm a new lieutenant, so very, very interesting. And some of these things I can take back to the station and use with some of the new firefighters I have on my crew.
Something to get you thinking about your job more, big picture type stuff. I've seen him before. A good review for sure.
I have heard him before, yes. After he speaks, there's usually an enlightenment because now they're more aware of what's going on around them and what they're experiencing as they respond to calls.
He's very, very knowledgeable. I'm enjoying it so far.
And that intuition, that's a big one. The video that he just showed up here, we're getting a lot out of this. I think this is a really good seminar, especially for new people and old. But I think it's very informative. This talk gives us more ammunition to do all three.
They're relatable to what we have experienced or very well could experience, so he makes it easy to let the knowledge sink in.
I mean, it's awesome. A lot of stories you can usually relate to yourself and calls you have been on, aha moment. Like, he just helps you focus on picking out the right things. It's awesome. It's a refresher and keeps my eyes open. It's good stuff.
If people listen to the message that he has, it's an incredible message delivered by a very compassionate person. Strategy and tactics are going to always change. Situational awareness it doesn't change. It's always there.
He's got some good stories to tell, and he's very thorough with his stories, and it's interesting listening to him.
Very clear speaker, and he talks on our level because he's been there, he's been in the trenches. I think he's doing well, and I'm looking forward to the second half.
I'd like to take a moment to honor and thank those companies, organizations, agencies, and departments that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training for their team members. The Rogue Interagency Training Association in Medford, Oregon. The Shoreline Fire Department in Shoreline, Washington. And the Syncrude Canada oil refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta. If you're interested in attending one of our upcoming programs, here's where we're going to be next. Now through January 9th, we're back again at Syncrude Canada in Fort McMurray, Alberta. January 12th, we'll be at the Quad County Fire Chiefs Association in Lewiston, Idaho. January 15 to 16 at the Pearland Fire Department in Pearland, Texas. January 26th, the Toledo Fire Department in Toledo, Ohio. January 29th, the Whitecourt, Alberta Fire Department, where we're doing the live virtual internet-based training. February 2 and 3, the Missouri Winter Fire School in Columbia, Missouri. February 22nd, the West Virginia Emergency Services Conference in Pipestem, West Virginia. February 25, the Grand Rapids Fire Department in Minnesota. February 26th, the Hibbing Fire Department in Minnesota. February 27th, the Mountain Iron Fire Department in Minnesota. February 28th, the Lutzen Fire Department in Minnesota. March 5 through 7, the Baytown Fire Department in Baytown, Texas. March 12th, the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Towson, Maryland. And March 25 through April 3, the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Oahu, Hawaii.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters. Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important, because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters. Know your water supply, because SA matters. Bears and Cougars, SA matters.
Go versus no go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters.
SA matters, so don't get angry.
When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters!
To see the locations of all the upcoming events, just head over to the SAMatters.com website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. If you're interested in hosting a program, just click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage and I will give you a call. If you want to become part of the SA Matters community of learners, there are a couple ways you can do that. Check the show notes for how to get connected with us through our newsletter membership, podcast subscribers, YouTube subscribers, and how to follow us on the social media channels of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. There we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 246 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you to Santa for stopping by a couple of weeks ago and sharing those 12 tips with us. Thank you to our awesome sponsors, Midwest Fire and Chief Miller. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations and associations that have hosted recent Situational Awareness Matters training programs. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted the live, virtual, internet-based training events, where I come to the organization live via the internet and train your entire team. Thank you to the more than 2,500 students and graduates of the highly acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And finally, thank you, the viewers and listeners of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there. And may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit SAMatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.